Hi, have you ever thought about what is beautiful? Does beauty have real objective measures? Can we know what is beautiful, or is it just we just know it when we see it? I'm Dr. Raghu. I'm a double board certified facial plastic surgeon based in Houston, Texas. Today we're going to talk about the science of beauty. So I came across this topic actually when I was in fellowship. So as we do our fellowship, and I was lucky enough to be awarded one of the less than 40 fellowships in what I do across the country. So as I'm learning my surgical techniques and things like that, I really started thinking about what's beautiful. How do we know that which is beautiful? Is there a definition somewhere? Is it just something we're innately born with? So I started thinking about this more and more, and it was so important to me. I actually wrote my thesis on this topic. So one of the interesting papers that I had read was that even babies understand what is beautiful. So what they did in a medical study is there were babies in the newborn nursery, and they showed them pictures of what we would consider fashion models and beautiful people. And then they showed them pictures like, for example, what we would see at Halloween, an ugly person, okay, what we would say ugly or unattractive, okay? But these were pictures that universally we would say one is pretty, one is not. And when we saw the baby's physiological responses, the pretty faces made the baby's heart rates come down. They were calmer, okay? They were more happy. And then when you showed them the faces of like a witch on Halloween, the baby's heart rates went up. They became more agitated. So one of the conclusions that this paper came across and said is that even babies have this idea of what is pretty. So how do we start defining what is pretty? So as we think about right now, there's a whole lot of trends on Instagram and TikTok, right? So we've got the BBL trend, we've got the big lip trend, we've got the little, I call it the little dragon eye, the little line that the girls put with the mascara. All of these things. Are all these things pretty, beautiful? Is it a changing concept? So you'd probably be very interested in knowing that beauty has existed for all time. Okay, and I think, so one of the focus of my thesis is that this idea of beauty is actually rooted in what we find attractive in order to find a mate. So let me back that up a little bit and tell you what I mean by that. So if we think about ourselves as animals, okay, we're just animals living in this world, one of our primary focuses is to reproduce. We need to make sure that our genes, our cells, and our character traits are reproduced in the next generation. So therefore, we end up looking for suitable mates in order to have that happen. As we are looking for suitable mates, there's certain character traits that our eyes, evolutionarily speaking, have been trained into looking for. So guess what one of those is? Big eyes, okay? Why are big eyes attractive, okay? It's a sign of health. So if you take a look, okay, at people who may have genetic disorders, chronic lung disease, a lot of chronic medical problems, you can see, for example, like cirrhosis. A patient who has cirrhosis will have yellow-looking eyes. They look sickly. Imagine the picture of someone who's been in the hospital for a long period of time with a chronic disease. Think about what their eyes would look like. It's kind of closed, it's wrinkly, it's hollowed out. This is not the sign of health. On the other hand, you look at a young person who's vibrant, energetic, no medical problems, big eyes, okay? So eyes are something that draw us in terms of beauty. Number two, lips. Big lips are not just something that came around in 2000, okay? So lips are a sign of attractiveness. Do you know that the earliest recorded history of lipstick, okay, is probably in the BC era, Women have been grinding berries to make their lips look red for over 3,000 years. Why? Because they knew it was attractive. Why? Why are red lips attractive? Again, it's a sign of health. So what do I mean that it's a sign of health? So there's a lot of medical problems, like let's say you have heart problems, lung problems, you're unable to oxygenate very well, your lips are going to be blue. Okay? That is a clear medical sign that there's something wrong with your circulatory system, heart or lungs. Even today, when we're doing trauma cases in the operating room, we're looking at the patient's overall coloration. So if something happens and the patient's lips are blue, we go, oh, there's a problem. There's a problem with oxygenation. So our minds, our eyes, and our evolutionary rudimentary subconscious brain is drawn to looking for healthy red lips. That gives you the sign that this is a good person to mate with, and you're going to have a good chance of a nice, healthy offspring. Now, this study I found was the kind of the coolest study on the planet. Okay, so most of my patients know that I'm originally from India. So I spent some summers in India, and the summer after fellowship, I went to India for several weeks. While I was in India, I went to this place in southern India that's very important for stone sculpting. Okay, so they sculpt stone there and they make sculptures. And most of the sculptures are religious based and they have gods and goddesses and things like that. And there was one thing that I noticed, okay? If you looked at the sculptures themselves and just look at it as a piece of art and look at the male gods, okay, and this is the truth that you see even when you go to ancient Greece or something like that. Look at what they found beautiful, okay? All of the guys there, I mean, they are built, they are ripped, they got pecs, they got guns, okay? Now, if you look at the overall population, okay, not the same percentage of everybody in the overall population is ripped to the same extent that the gods were modeled after. So they found this attractive, okay? And similarly, if you take a look at the sculptures of the goddesses, they're all extremely buxom, well endowed, small waist, big hips, okay? So the ideas of having big boobs, small waist, big hips is not something new. It's not something that Kim Kardashian brought to the event. Okay, this has been there for all time. Why is this? So let's stop for 1 second. So there was a really famous study that was done at the University of Texas. Of course, I have to pull UT into this somehow, okay, where they took thousands upon thousands of young college-aged men, okay? And they started showing them the pictures of women's bodies, and they had to rank these pictures. And these pictures had to be ranked whether they were beautiful or they found them attractive on a scale of, I think, 1 to 5 or something. Don't quote me on all this. I got the general gist. But universally, all men found certain pictures attractive. So when the researchers went back and found out which pictures those were and tried to analyze those pictures, all of those pictures had a very common theme. The hip to waist ratio on those women was about 1.3 to 1.4. Okay? So hips were bigger, waist was smaller. Okay? So the researchers were really perplexed. Why is this the case? Well, it just so happened that one of the researchers had a brother who was an OB-GYN, and the researcher had mentioned this weird statistic at dinner, and the OB-GYN brother said, duh, 1.3 to 1.4 is the perfect ratio for a woman to have the least complications during pregnancy. And the researcher went, ding, 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 ding. Okay, so maybe we are pre-programmed to find these things attractive because it ensures that we're going to be able to reproduce and make sure that our offspring, our children, our sons, our daughters are the healthiest they can be. Because if you were in a population and, you're in Neanderthal era, you want to find the healthiest person that you can possibly find to mate with. that gives you the greatest chance of having healthy children that are going to be able to survive the next generation. So this whole idea is where I got this idea about looking at the science of beauty and trying to figure out why is it that we find certain things beautiful. So if you take a look at all of these things, we can ask ourselves the question, are these trends? Are these fads? Okay, most likely not. So some of the things that we are talking about, whether it's big boobs, whether it's big lips, whether it's big eyes, all of these various things, I think, is something we are pre-programmed to find attractive. So as I navigate this whole field of plastic surgery and looking at this, one of the things that this study has really taught me in writing this thesis and researching all of this has really taught me to look at this kind of from the 30,000 feet bird's eye view. So, for example, there are certain trends and fads. For example, in the 1980s, this idea of the overtly sculpted nose was really in. Super scoopy, super pointy. Okay? And as we have slowly kind of gone back into the 90s and now into the 2000s and the second decade of the 2000s, we're really seeing that natural is back in. I had a patient the other day come and tell me I'd operated on her daughter about 15, 16 years ago, and she had really wanted a super scooped out nose. And I had told her at the time that, no, I'm not really going to do that. I really think we should go for more natural. And at this point, 16 years out, the daughter is the happiest she's ever been because she goes out and about. She says she has a beautiful face. It's very proportional, and nobody knows she's had a nose job. So I think as a plastic surgeon, going full circle around on this talk, number one, beauty is not just a series of fads. It's been there for all time. Two, I think that beauty is something, there is a lot of science behind this. There's a lot of background, and if we really open our eyes and look into this, we're going to see that it's not just a series of random things. It's not just hey, this week we're doing big boobs, and next week, no. I mean, there is a lot of science to this, and realistically, humans have found these traits attractive for almost all time. Three, as a practicing plastic surgeon, I think it is important to kind of look at trends and fads as they come out and see if they match this overall concept of what is a fad, or is it part of the spectrum of what we find beautiful. So, for example, in my practice, I think I'm relatively conservative on not just jumping onto the newest fad. I'll look at it, I'll analyze it, I will see whether it kind of follows my idea of beauty. I will listen to the patient, figure out what their idea of beauty is, see if we have similarities, and then kind of reassess and let that be kind of a dynamic thing that we can kind of work together and see if we're all on the same page. So as you go and search for cosmetic procedures or plastic procedures or thinking about what you may want to do, my suggestion is just keep a few of these thoughts in the back of your head. Some of the things that you may see on Instagram and TikTok might be a fad, but some of the things may be things that we have found beautiful for all time. So with that, I'm giving you a lot of stuff to think about. I know this topic was a little off my usual talks about surgery and plastic surgery and procedures, but I hope you found it useful. If you thought this content was interesting, useful, and you learned something, and you want to hear more about stuff like this, please subscribe to our channel. If you got questions, comments, please drop them in the comments section down below. Until next time, I'm Dr. Raghu Athre, Athre Facial Plastics, Houston, Texas.